I'm really pleased to be here. I'm going to share my screen. So I have a brief presentation, and then I'm going to go into FSTA, the database, and actually show some hints and tips about searching it effectively. But what I want to do first is introduce the database to everybody. So FSTA is the database that is focused on the sciences of food and health. And so that is what we have in it, the scope and content of what you will find when you search FSTA. And so in my presentation today, I want to talk first about the scope and content, and then we'll go to looking at how to build a search and specifically using the Thesaurus to build an effective search. And we'll look at some of the things that you can do within the database. So apply limits, set up search alerts, save results and things like that. And then finally, I want to show you some things that we at IFIS have produced that are freely available resources to help researchers research effectively. So do feel free to put in any questions, ask any questions as we go along, and I'll try to answer them. So that's going to be fairly informal too. So the first thing I want to talk about is the scope and content. So FSTA as a database is like almost any other database where we mostly index scholarly journal articles. So you can see from the slide about 70% of the content within the database is from scholarly journals about food and nutrition. But then there's also a fair amount of content that's patents or patents. And that is information that is not necessarily being published in other sources. So it's a way that we can capture research outputs that aren't being published in the scholarly journals. So perhaps research that's being done in industry where they don't want to just share it because they want to monetize it first. There's also reviews and conference proceedings and standards and reports. So that's a fairly standard snapshot of material sources for a database. And then not surprisingly, if we look at it from another angle and think about the sources in terms of the subject content, it really focuses on food commodities. So, and food commodities of all sorts, including even pet foods. So it crosses the whole spectrum. If we look at it from yet another perspective, you can see that we're looking at lots of nutrition and health content, so that has to do with food, but also very technological content, so standard food science and technology things, food safety, food security. So we really do go at it from all angles for food. And so this is something that's useful to know about FSTA, because we don't just index journals cover to cover. So I'll get a bunch of food science journals and index everything in them. There are many journals that we do index cover to cover, but our editorial team also goes out into other journals that aren't focused entirely on food science, so like engineering journals or marketing scholarly journals, and we find the content in those that's related to food science and technology and nutrition and bring it into the database for our users. So we do a lot of the going out and finding the material where it is and bring it into a centralized place for you. But within that engineering journal, we wouldn't index the material that doesn't have anything to do with the sciences of food and health, if that makes sense. And then our editorial team also does human indexing rather than machine indexing of all of the records. And so we have experts who look at each record and assign subject terms to them that make it so that you can search more effectively and efficiently. And our thesaurus, where these subject headings are, is the largest food science focused thesaurus of any databases. And we have more than 13,000 subject headings in there. And so when we get into the database, I'll actually show you how this works. So now let's do that. So fortunately, we don't have to search a card catalog anymore. We get to use the technology of online databases. So I need to find the right screen to share with you. Okay, so now I've gone in to, if we go into Research for Life, if you've logged in, then there's different programs that are available, and FSTA is available on all or most of these. I'm not sure, I've got to admit, but it's definitely available there. So if I go into Agora, then there's a link, Databases for Discovery, and that's where the list of databases are. And if you scroll down, they're just listed alphabetically, and you'll see FSTA there. So click on that. And then scroll down to the database itself and click again. And you're actually in and ready to do your searching. And so this page is, it's a great search page to land on. There are a couple things I want to tell you about it before we really start so that you can use it to best effect. So somebody's raised their hand. I'm trying to figure out how to unmute you. I don't know if somebody else could unmute. You have a question?
Yeah, I can try to do
okay,
that.
Great.
I know someone, the person with their hand raised, you're not connected with a microphone, I'm afraid. So we can't really hear you. You can try to speak, but we can't hear you. If you're not able to have a microphone with you, you can also write your question in the chat and we can answer from there.
Okay, I'll go on, and then if you can write your question in the chat, then I'll go and I'll answer it, or have help answering it, possibly. So the first thing I want to show you on this screen is these search options down below, because this controls how the database understands what you type in as search terms. And you'll see that there's selected Boolean phrase here in the search modes. And that's
Yeah, I think we lost Carol. It sounds very frozen. I see in the chat that for other people too. So I think it's Carol's problem, unfortunately. Let me see if I can reach her in any way. I think she is gonna just try to join again, probably. Oh, there she is. You're on mute, Carol.
I'm really sorry about that. My Wi-Fi dropped.
No problem.
Can you still see my screen, or do I need to share again?
You need to share it again.
Okay. Apologies, I really hope that doesn't happen again. Is it showing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I was talking about Boolean phrase.
Yeah.
An operator with it, then it'll read it as a phrase, so that it will think that you are. I'm going to stop my video.
Yeah, I think I was gonna
that might help
suggest
with
that.
my Wi-Fi. Yeah. Okay, and really hope that this works better. So it's going to read this as though it has to be green tree together, those two words as a phrase. So if I search that, I get only one result, and you can see here's green tree. But if I add in a Boolean operator, and then I get instead 508 results, so way more results. And one of them will have green tree together, still as a phrase, but all the rest of them have green somewhere in the record and tree somewhere else in the record. So you can tell how important it is to just be aware of what that Boolean phrase functionality is doing to your searching. Sometimes you're happy to have things as phrases, and sometimes you aren't. So with this search screen, what I think is really good, a really good way to work it is to make sure that you put each separate concept in a separate box, so that you have an and already built in there. So you can just leave those, but just put one concept here and one concept here and another one there. And if you have a big and complicated search, you can add as many rows as you want to. So I'm going to give an example. So in the questions that people sent ahead of time, there were several about COVID-19. And so if we do a search about COVID-19, and then we can also say or COVID or coronavirus, which we have to spell correctly. So those are all different ways that different words that people might use to capture the same thing. So we're keeping them all together in one box. And then food security. And in this case, I do want food security to be a phrase, so I can just leave it as the two words together. I could also put it inside quotation marks if I wanted to, but it would be exactly the same as though I didn't in this particular search interface. And I click on search, and you can see that I get 30 results there. And if we look at the limits here, they've all been published in 2020. It's not surprising. And we can see that all of them are actually academic journal articles here. We can look at the languages that they were published in, and in this case, all of them were published in English. So, so that gives you a sense a little bit of how you can use the separate boxes to search. As you're searching, you can add things to folders. And so you're able to actually set up a personal folder for yourself here. So I've got one already created, but anybody can create an account just by going here and clicking on create one now. I'm going to sign into my folder. And I'd recommend doing it because it can just help you be more efficient with your searching. Once you're in a folder, signed in, then you can see that you can add results by clicking on these little folders. So those then are actually added into my folder, and then I could go and look at them in my folder if I wanted to. And that gives me the option to, so now that I've done it when I'm signed in, even if I got interrupted or dropped my connection or what have you, they'll still be saved in that folder when I next get onto the database. And I can then select them all, and I can do various things like email them to somebody else or to myself, export them to a reference management software, or whatever I'd like to do with them. So it's just something that helps you be more organized. I'm going to go back though to my searching and look a little bit more at building searches. So sometimes you'll build a search in here and it will work really beautifully. So another suggestion that came through as people signed up for this webinar was people looking for information about childhood malnutrition in sub-Saharan Africa. And so that's got 3 concepts in it: sub-Saharan Africa, and childhood. But I'm not going to type childhood, I'm going to type child and then use a truncation symbol there. So that asks the database to find any results that have child in them, or childhood, or children, and possibly other ones that I'm not thinking of right now. But it's taking the words that I typed, and then also will give results that have extra letters included. And then the last one is malnutrition. So I don't think I need to truncate that because it's just, there's not malnutritions. It's just complete in itself. So if I hit search, then I get 72 results, which is a number that's really, possible to look through. I would probably want to improve that search by opening up results and looking at them in more detail, and possibly picking up additional terms or somehow tweaking the search to make sure that it really focused exactly on what I wanted. But 72 is a number I can work with. But you'll definitely have times with some searches where it doesn't work quite so nicely. So another suggestion I got was looking at determinants of healthy eating in schools. And so if I do a search of healthy, and then I'm going to do here an adjacent search. So I'm going to say near. So I want healthy to be near within 3 words of eating. So this is another variation on Booleans that you can do, where you can say, I want my terms to be in the same field, and I want them to be near each other, but they don't necessarily have to be right next to each other. And the 3 is the number I chose, but you could also do 5 or 7 or 4 or what have you. And it's worth knowing that when the database interprets this, it has some words that it won't count as words. So sometimes you'll think, hey, that's not really within 3 words, but there's a list of words that it just disregards as words. So you can have 5 words, but you've put near 3, but it's because it doesn't think that some of those words are consequential enough to count, if that makes sense. So then I'm going to think about the other term, which is schools. But I'm going to truncate that one. So search that. And I get 2,000 results, way too many to deal with. And I know that I need to refine this somehow. So right here on the first result, I see healthy eating, and it's coming up in the subject. So those are the thesaurus terms that I've mentioned. And so those are the terms that are assigned to the articles as really encapsulating the main concepts of what this article is about. So healthy eating is coming up again, but if I look at the title of the second article, it doesn't really look like it has anything to do with my question. So it's talking about sleep duration and dietary quality in US adults. So what does that have to do with schools? I open it up. My search terms will be in bold, so it makes it easier to spot them. And it turns out it's the University of Michigan School of Public Health. So it's part of the address. And if I were to look through more of these results, I'd find that having school in the address is really common, and it's not what I want at all. So I'm going to use the thesaurus to make this search a lot more satisfactory. So you'll see up here in the corner, there's a link for the thesaurus. So I click on that, and I have a search box. I'm ignoring this search box at the top, but I'm looking at the thesaurus search box that's here. And you'll see that I have 3 options for my search mode. I have term begins with, term contains, and relevancy ranked. And my advice is to use term contains, because term begins with is an alphabetical list. And unless you know absolutely that you've got the right term, it gives a lot less flexibility about what you see. So I use personally term contains, and then if that doesn't work, I'll switch to relevancy ranked, but often the terms contained and the relevancy ranked give exactly the same results. So I'm going to type schools and browse. And I get a result here, which is promising. And I'll open it up, and I can see the thesaurus term in the context of the hierarchy. So I can see the broader term, so the more general term, where it sits. And then if there were any narrower terms, I would see them. There are not any in this case, but there's a related term, school meals. So the question as I saw it was about schools. So I don't know if they're particularly thinking of school meals or not. So what I'll do is I'll select both schools and school meals, and I can add these. And then you'll see that it's done it with an or, so it's saying either schools or school meals is okay, either variation is fine. DE here means descriptor. So now I'm searching for a thesaurus term. And this is one thing that can be a little bit confusing, because there's different terms that are used for the same thing. So descriptor is the same as a subject term, is the same as a thesaurus term, and is also in the record called a keyword. So we'll look at that in 1 second. So I'm going to search that. And I get a lot of results, 3,000 results. And then I also knew that there was healthy eating. So I had spotted that, if you remember, in the records under the subjects. So I'm going to put in healthy eating. And you'll see that when I selected the term, it made it capitalized. I'm not typing it capitalized, it doesn't matter. I could capitalize randomly in the middle of the word, it wouldn't make any difference at all. And here, since I'm typing it myself, I'm going to select keywords. But keywords is the same as descriptors. So apologies that that is confusing, but just remember that it's the same thing. So I'm going to search that. And I still get a lot of results. I get 368 results, but that's way better than the 2000, I think, that I started with. And if I open up a record again, I can see that although the terms are highlighted there, they'll also always be here in these keyword or subject headings. So each of the articles in this list that I've been left with is really, really focused on that question. And so that's a way that I made a search manageable by using the subject headings to really focus it more, instead of getting the ones that were randomly written by people whose address contained the word school. So what I would probably do next is think about another additional subject concept that I wanted to add to the search to make it a little bit more focused. But since it's not my search, I don't know which direction to take it in. So that depends on the researcher themselves. So I want to go back to the Thesaurus and show a little bit more about it, though, because there's a lot of things that are useful to know about it. So I already said that a tip is to use the term contains option for searching within it. And then another thing that's really useful is to either truncate your term or to type it both, like once as a singular version and once as a plural version, because there is variation. A lot of times the term is listed in the thesaurus as a plural term rather than a singular. So if we look at oilseed truncated, then we'll see that we get both oilseed proteins, mustard seeds, oilseeds, and then these use directives. So if we had typed it out as two words, we still get directed to the official term. So one thing that I've discovered is that when you truncate, you often get the same term listed twice. I don't know why that is exactly, but it doesn't matter that much. If you wonder why are we getting mustard seeds, which doesn't have oilseed in it, if we open up the record, then we can see why we got it. So it's in the history note that it used to be just be under oilseeds or spices, and then it got pulled out as its own separate heading or thesaurus term in 1998. So looking at these notes can help you be really comprehensive in your searches so that you are sure not to miss the early literature in this case. If you're just searching for mustard seeds, you'd know that you'd want to go back further for oil seeds or spices. And so another thing that's useful to know about the thesaurus is how the used for terms work. So one thing that the thesaurus does is it doesn't just focus in on the key concepts within an article for you, but it also pulls together variations of language that researchers around the world use to capture the same concept. So a really nice example of this is soy yogurt. So if I go to soy yogurt, you can see already I spelt it without an H, but it's pushing me towards the version with an H, which is the official version of the term. If I click on that to see the term in its context, then I can see and click on it again to get the actual listing as a thesaurus term. I have the broader term as soy products, but then I have the used for, and I have this long list of various ways that researchers refer to soy yogurt. So soybean yogurt, spelt more than one way, soya yogurt, spelt more than one way, soya bean yogurt, and soybean yogurt, just as one word. So all of these variations are pulled together under a single heading so that we don't have to know necessarily that somebody in a different part of the world might use soya bean yogurt instead of soy yogurt for us. So it lets us make sure we don't inadvertently drop useful links or drop useful results. So if I were to search for soy yogurt, so add that to my search, then it would pull all of these together. Now, if we do another, somebody asked for information, they were interested in information about food processing. So we don't, because we're in a database about food, we don't have to use the word food because it's just assumed. But if we search for processing and click on the term again, then you can see that there's one broader term, technology, but there are so many narrower terms that are really specific to the different ways that people can process food. So I'm only on the D's now, goes on and on and on. And so that shows you the focus of our thesaurus, how we're really thinking about food science. But it also is useful to know that if you tick processing, you'll only get the terms that have processing themselves in them. But if you tick the explode term on this other side, then you'll search not just processing, but all of the narrower terms that are included underneath it. And every time there's an explode button next to a term, then there's, then that means that there's a narrower term next to it. So sometimes I have trouble lining up the boxes with the terms. So, but in this case, molding, a narrower term for that is shaping. So if I go back to the list and say, yes, I want to explode processing and add that to my search term, then you can see that it's automatically filled in the search box with all of these options. And when I hit search, it's been a little bit slow. Then I get all of the different results. And again, it's in bold which one it is. So you can also build searches using the search history. So that will have saved all the results that I've done. So during the session, I've done 9 different searches. And so you can go to all of those as you need to. And you can say that you want to combine them with ands or with ors. And if you want to do a not search, so this is mainly for the librarians in the room, then you would go to search history so you can see the search in front of you, the search numbers, and you could go S9, not, spell it correctly, not S7. So I don't know if there will be any results there. You'd have to have thought out the logic before you do it, but that's how you formulate a not search within this database. So that's a really quick introduction to using FSTA in Research for Life. And before I leave the search screen, I'd like to see if there are any questions about using.
Yes. Carol, I don't know if you had a look at the chat. We have a question from Steve. And Steve, I don't know if this explanation was already enough for your question. So Steve was asking, how do you narrow your research so that you get the correct result and not other similar results? So I think you went deeper into this, but I wanted to ask Steve, you can also unmute yourself if you want to ask if you want to explain your questions better. Or of course,
Hello
Carol,
there.
if you... Sorry, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
No.
Yes, how are you?
Fine,
Good,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah. My question is just as it is. I just wanted to know, because most of the time you just key in a word on the internet, or rather on your research tablet or research tab or anything that you are doing. Then you just get similar. You keep on searching, and you keep on getting the same results over and time again. So my question is, how do you now narrow down? Is there a way that you can narrow down your research topic, or what is it that you are doing research on, so that you get the final of the results, not now just getting the same results that you have been getting? How do you narrow down that research? That is where my question is.
Okay. So it's an excellent question. And one part of the answer I have for you is going to be disappointing, because it's just part of good searching that you do tend to see the same results a lot in different places. So in one way, you'd have to be a little bit patient about that, because you want to cast a wide enough net where you capture everything relevant, but by doing that, unfortunately, you'll also capture some things that are irrelevant, but there are still things that you can do to make it a little bit more focused. So one thing you can do is, when you're in a database with a thesaurus, if you search terms as the thesaurus terms, then that means that you're getting more focused results, because it's not as broad as searching the abstract and the title as well. So that's one thing to do, is just run your searches just in that field. And then another thing you can do is you can add an extra search term. So you can add one more component to what your search is to make it more focused specifically on whatever it is you're looking for. So that's a way that often works. So you'll have whatever it is that you've been searching that's gotten lots and lots of results, but then you can say, well, if I add in this one more thing, it'll hopefully make it focus more. One thing that you can do within this database is you can search within a section. So for instance, if I wanted to search, so let's say nanoparticles, and oops, sorry, I don't mean to scroll around randomly. I'm trying to go here. So I could say I want to search nanoparticles, but only in terms of fats, oils, and margarines. Then I can select that and then put my term in here, nanoparticle. I'm going to truncate it. And I get 170 results there, but I know they all will have to do only with fats, oils, and margarines, which is pretty wide actually. But you can also, what I'm trying to say is that you can take advantage of the limits that are offered within databases, which are often more targeted than, like if you're searching Google Scholar one thing that's hard with Google Scholar, I think, is that you're searching sort of just an undefined record, whereas any record that you're searching in here, you're only searching the title, the abstract, and the subject headings, as well as those additional fields like address field. Does that help? Do you think that helps answer your question?
Yeah, it really does. Thank you.
Okay, good. I mean, I think my approach is to take different approaches and see which works. So
Thank you.
see what tools I can take advantage of.
I see that we have a question from Hina and then Lenny in this
Okay.
order. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Hina, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, hi Karen, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, can you?
Hello, did you hear me? I can
Yes,
hear
I can.
you.
If you can hear me, please tell so that I might ask the question.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask that is FSTA database free to use for every user if he or she doesn't have any institutional email account or any authentication or subscription, or is it trial based or
It
has limited? Yes, please.
Okay, it's a subscription database, and I hope that my Research for Life colleagues can help answer the question about whether or not what you need to be able to have access to it through Research for Life. I know that not all countries do have access to it, but many do. So.
Right. I'm gonna see if Lenny, you wanna take this one?
Yeah, I didn't hear the question completely. What country are you in?
Yes, I am from Pakistan, and I am lecturer based at a community college, and I teach cell and molecular biology to undergraduates. So I have my active institutional email address and account that I can use to log in. I'm provided with the credentials.
I can, if you send me an email, I will show you how to check if you have access or not. Okay? And let me just put my email address in the chat. Okay?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much. And yes, sorry, please.
Oh, I was going to say, Lenny, could you forward to me or copy me in as well?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and one more thing I want to ask is that what is the eligibility criteria? Because you have mentioned that what I can think of all this is that it is country based or nationality based, or is there any other eligibility criteria for accessing the database correctly?
Sure, Hina, so this is Domitiana. I think since this is very specific to every country and every institution, we can answer that question. Lenny and I can answer that question when you reach out to him. His email is now in the chat. And if you put both of these questions there, we can help you taking the next steps. Is that okay?
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, it gets a little complicated. So write down exactly what you want and we will answer you. Okay? Because I cannot.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll follow up. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
I
great
can't
rest of the
remember
day.
if
Thank you.
Pakistan has access or not, but I can check and show you how.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Carol, I want, if you can go to search results.
Mm-hmm.
Are you signed in through Agora?
I believe I went through Agora, yes.
Okay, if you go to search results, you can show them that there are the links to the full text.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I just want to let them know that they can go if the system's working right and they have eligibility. Yes.
Look,
Yeah, couple.
Okay.
beautiful.
So
So
yeah,
there
perfect.
is a link to the full text.
Perfect. And
Thank you so much, Lenny.
you click on it.
Okay, so I'll click on it.
Yeah, I thought that would be helpful.
And so then do I go to the resource there?
Exactly. It should. This is the way that everybody has access to the different articles.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, I think it's helpful just to see. Okay, so I just wanted to let everyone know that if you're doing your search and you get the results you want, there is a good chance that the 360 link there will take you directly to the full text. Okay? That it is
Yeah,
mapped.
there we go.
for
Okay, so
Quay.
article full text there. I chose a different one. And there's a really clear
There it is. Perfect.
avenue to it. Thank you so much, Lenny. That's important. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to tie it all together.
Yep.
Hello, Lenny. How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
Very
So-
nice session. Very nice session, and I am very happy to again one platform and just try to learning something new from uh, this databases. So it's really very helpful for our users, and it will be promoted from the Nepal. So it's nice to hear all of you. Good databases, and we'll actually just use, and it will be promoted from Nepal and NHRC how to use and how do we get the full text from these databases also. So it's nice to hear.
Thank you.
Well, that's why we're having these webinars, to expand knowledge of some of the resources that are, as Kim Parker, the head of Hanari, says, hidden gems. People to know that these resources are available and usable. And I think Tiziana would mention that she has mentioned that the presentation and the video will be available, and we will send that information out to everyone.
Yes. So I'm going to show one more thing. I'm going to return to my slideshow quickly because I just want to show you a few more resources that we've created at IFIS that are freely available for anybody to use. And I think they're going to be also all loaded into the Research for Life web pages, but you can get them from our web page as well. So first of all, as you're using the database, there's a help button that's built in. And you can always go to it if you have questions about your searching, so that you know about it. But we also have created help and support documents and little videos that we have on our webpage that will walk you through really, specific things that you might be wanting to do to use the database of to actually get the kinds of results that you want. At the same time, we've created a much larger resource that's about best practice in literature searching. So it's not focused on the database specifically, but it's about the whole process of literature searching. It's a LibGuide, so any libraries that have LibGuides can integrate it into their own if you want to, or just link to it. And it walks through all the steps for literature searching for literature review. And This is also available as a free online module that has quizzes built into it that anybody can download and work through if they'd rather do it in that format. And we have a guide that is targeted at early career researchers who need to start publishing their own articles, but might not be familiar with the way to go about it yet. And so it's also a LibGuide, but supplemented with videos, and it walks you through all the information that's really useful to know when you are trying to get published. Both for early career researchers and for really well-established researchers, we also have something called the Journal Recommendation Service, which is a tool that draws on the journals that we've indexed in our database. So they're all reputable journals. There's no predatory journals included in the database. And this tool lets you find a good place to publish your own research. You can actually put an abstract into it and it will find a good match subject-wise. And you can pull up various facets like the impact factor or whether or not it's open access and see what the open access processing charges are to figure out the best fit for you trying to get an accepted article manuscript. So that's available, and you can also browse it to see all the options that are out there. And finally, we have two different blogs. We have one that is focused on the sciences of food and health, and we have a new one that's focused specifically on research skills. And it tends to be focused on research skills having to do with the sciences of food and health, but often it's broader than that, so it would be useful for all sorts of people. And so you can get on the mailing list and get those, or just go to our website and see what the latest blog posts are. And we have various social media channels we're on, so we'd really welcome you to follow us on any of them that you might use so that you can just get updates from us. So that's everything that I wanted to cover today, but I'm really happy to answer any other questions if there are any. So, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and meet with the Research for Life community this way. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol. I really appreciate it. I think this was wonderful, and indeed, the recording will be available on our website, and we will going to send a link around to everyone who registered as well. Is there any last question or any feedback you'd like to give to Carol before we close the webinar? Also, I see, Lenny, your hand is still raised, but I think it was from before. If it's not from before, feel free to speak. All right. So if I don't hear anything else, I think we can.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Yes. Towards concluding, mine is just a comment. It's not a question as such. Just want to say thank you for organizing for this webinar. It has taught me a lot. I've been following all through the discussion, and let me hope, because I'm writing my master's thesis. At least I have got something from you. At least I'm going to implement it. It is going to help me, through my master's thesis, and maybe later on my PhD thesis. Who knows? Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah.
All right, then thank you, everyone. And I hope to hear or speak with you soon. And thank you again, Carol. Really lovely to meet you. And thank you for giving this webinar.
Thanks again. And good luck to everybody with your research.
Indeed.
Thank you so much.
One last question.
You all participated. Thank you.
One last question.
Yes.
Yes, are we gonna get any certificate for this, or is there anything of the sort?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yes, I know the answer. I was told that one of your colleagues from IFIS, Hannah,
Yeah.
we can contact her for a certificate. Is it okay if I put her email in the chat? Is that fine?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna do it in a second. So that
Thank you so much. I'm glad I should have known that.
It's okay. If you have any issue, of course, you can still contact, the communications team at Research for Life. Just email us to get the certificate, or if you have any other question.
Thank you. Thank you.
The email from Hannah. Oh, thank you, Hannah, for also writing that down. It's on the chat. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm putting my email in the chat as well. So if anybody has more questions about searching FSTA, they should feel free to contact me about that. And I will do my best to help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Also, to the person who just said that if the recording will be sent around, yes, it will be on the Research for Life website, and we will send you an email with the link. No problem. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Lenny. Bye, Lenny.
Bye. Would you? Yeah.
Bye to everyone that I've known over the years.
Bye, everyone.
See you
Bye,
too.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, bye. Thank you.